In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Scramble for Africa, and it is imperialism in its nature, where European nations went to Africa and took pieces of land. And it was called the Scramble of Africa because almost every single European nation ran for a piece of this land. Now, the map below is the map of Africa and its territories from 1885 to 1914. Anything red is British or orange, and anything green is French. We can see from the map that the two greatest and biggest colonies at the time were France and England. So, new imperialism. The Scramble for Africa refers to the period when European powers rapidly divided Africa among themselves. Unlike imperialism of the 1500s and 1600s, Europeans directly governed large areas of occupied land by non-European people. So, we remember in the 1500s and 1600s that Europe, in the age of exploration, Europe would go to a land like North America and colonize that area. And they would rule it themselves, and they would kill the inhabitants of the land. But unlike the imperialism of the 1500s and 1600s, Europeans went to, for example, let's say that Britain went to Egypt, right? Instead of removing the government, it had the government serve them, and this was cheaper. So why were Europeans driven to Africa? There are three main reasons. There was economic interests, political competition, and cultural motives. And we'll talk about each one in detail. So what are the economic interests? There was slave trade. And the slave trade got big profit for European nations. Now, what good is in Africa now? Well, there's raw materials in Africa. And the Industrial Revolution called for a lot of these raw materials. And so Africa offered coal and metals used for manufacturing. These resources fueled European desires into Africa. Europe, and we all know that Africa is full of is the continent with the most resources. It has coal, gold, silver, diamonds. It has all these very valuable resources. So the drive for colonization was often driven by businessmen and not governments, not only governments, because businessmen found profit in African land. So what is the political competition? Well, each European country was driven by the next. And what this means is that England expanded its empire to block French expansion. Also, the first led to the imperialism race. So, and Germany and Italy jumped into the race for colonies to assert their own status as great powers. And this was because of rivalries among nations. So, let's say England went to Egypt and colonized it. And France now sees that Britain has a strong, is becoming stronger, and it has more resources, manpower, and all this stuff in their hands, and so they jumped into the race to make sure that England does not become more powerful than itself, and that's why, for example, they took Algeria. Now, the belief that control of colonies would gain them more respect from other leaders. So, France believed that, if I colonize Algeria and Morocco, then England would respect me more because I colonized big areas of land, and they did too. And what are the cultural motives? Europeans believed Africans and Asians were inferior to them. It was a common belief that the white man was greater. So the European rule justified to teach Africans good environment, customs, and Christian values. They believed humanity was divided into distinct peoples, and races and biological differences. Europeans considered it their duty to educate inferior people, and they referred to this as the white man's burden, in reference to a poem by English poet Rudyard Kipling. So the white man of Europe believed that it was his duty to teach the Africans how to be humans. And I'm not joking, this is what they truly believed. And they called it the white man's burden. Europeans referred to social Darwinism. They stated that certain nations, races, were fit than others. They stated that fit nations came to rule over nations less fit and often discriminated against citizens of ruled nation. So, what they believed was that Africans were inferior races, and like I said, they have to accept social Darwinism, and that the Europeans advance much faster because they are just simply a better race. And they believe that the railway linking between Britain's Cape Colony in South Africa to Cairo in the north would bring benefits of civilization to all Africans. And this was a very strong belief, because they believed that they believed that the Europeans were much greater than any other race. And if we think about it, it's like Hitler. If in the bottom left corner of the screen, you'll find a picture of Hitler, and this is exactly what he believed, but Hitler was just a little more radical. Or was he? Because what the European nations did in Africa at the time was extremely violent, extremely no human rights. It was awful. It was just a bad state. Ethiopia, the only African nation besides Liberia that regained its independence. In 1889, Emperor of Ethiopia Menelik II undertook a program of modernization that included a modern army. In 1898, Italian forces invaded Ethiopia over a treaty dispute. Menelik's forces, more and better armed, defeated the Italians at the Battle of Adwa. And this just comes to show that European nations that such as Ethiopia and Liberia saw the threat of African nations. They armed themselves and modernized their army and themselves and the nation in order to fight these invaders. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. This is the Scramble for Africa. My name is Ibrahim Darwish, and please like this video.